Most people don't remember the moment their life started drifting because it never felt like a decision. It felt like nothing. It felt like a normal day. You woke up, you did what you usually do, you followed the same routine. You told yourself you would figure things out later, and later always felt far away. There was no alarm, no clear warning, no voice saying, "This is the moment everything changes." Just quiet repetition, days that looked the same, weeks that passed without resistance, months that didn't ask questions. And somewhere inside that repetition, something began to settle. Not visibly, not dramatically, but deeply. People often believe change is loud, that when something important happens, it announces itself. But most of the time, it doesn't. Most of the time, life changes in silence. It changes in the small decisions no one notices, like staying where you are instead of moving forward, like choosing familiarity instead of uncertainty, like telling yourself, "Not today," enough times that it becomes permanent. Not because you wanted it to be permanent, but because nothing interrupted it and nothing forced you to confront it. There's a strange comfort in not questioning your own direction, because questioning creates responsibility. It creates tension. It creates awareness, and awareness can be uncomfortable. It forces you to see things you were able to ignore. It forces you to admit things you were able to delay. So instead, most people stay inside the routine, not because it fulfills them, but because it doesn't challenge them, because it asks nothing new from them, because it allows time to pass quietly, without confrontation, without clarity, without change. At first, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels safe, predictable, manageable. You know what tomorrow will look like. You know what next week will feel like. You know what to expect. And that certainty feels like control, even when it isn't, even when it's actually the absence of control. Because real control requires conscious movement. It requires intention. It requires discomfort. And discomfort is easy to avoid when nothing forces you to face it. So life continues, calmly, quietly, without interruption. Years don't disappear all at once. They dissolve slowly in familiar environments, in repeated habits, in conversations that sound the same, in thoughts that never evolve. And because the changes are gradual, they don't feel urgent. They don't demand immediate attention. They don't create panic. They create acceptance. Acceptance of the current version of your life, even if it isn't the version you once imagined. Even if it isn't the version you once believed was temporary. Because over time, temporary starts to feel permanent. Not by force, but by repetition. There's a psychological pattern inside this. It isn't laziness. It isn't weakness. It's passive acceptance. It's the quiet agreement between you and your current reality. An agreement that says, this is fine. Not because it's ideal, not because it's intentional, but because it's uninterrupted. Because nothing has forced you to reconsider it. Because nothing has made staying feel impossible. So staying continues, without resistance, without urgency, without awareness of how long it has already lasted. people rarely notice the exact moment they stopped expecting something different. Because expectations don't disappear suddenly. They fade, gradually, subtly, quietly, until one day, the idea of something different feels distant. Not impossible, just distant, unfamiliar, like something that belonged to a different version of you. A version that existed before routine became identity, before repetition became stability, before familiarity became permanent. And time keeps moving. It doesn't pause. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't ask if you're aware. It moves regardless of your clarity, regardless of your intention, regardless of whether you're consciously choosing your direction or simply continuing the last one. Because time doesn't require your permission. It only requires your presence. And presence alone doesn't guarantee progress. It only guarantees continuation. There's no dramatic turning point in most lives, no cinematic realization, no clear dividing line between who you were and who you became. Just gradual adaptation, gradual acceptance, gradual settling into whatever repeated itself long enough until repetition became identity, until familiarity became permanence, until the absence of change became normal. And that's the part most people never talk about. How life doesn't need a clear decision to shape itself. How it doesn't need intention to move in a direction. How it doesn't need permission to continue exactly as it is. It only needs silence and time and the absence of interruption. Eventually, people look around and notice something unfamiliar, not in their environment, but in themselves. A quiet awareness. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just subtle. A realization that nothing forced this life into existence. It formed gradually, through continuation, through repetition, through quiet acceptance. And the strange part is, it never felt like something was happening. It just felt like nothing was happening. And that's how it stayed.